I want you to take a second and just think back to a really specific, seemingly isolated moment in your past.
Hmm.
Think about a time you tried something brand new, like maybe picking up a guitar or learning to code, and you just completely, utterly failed at it.
We've all been there.
Right. Or, well, let's go a little darker for a second. Think about a time you told a tiny, almost insignificant white lie to get out of an awkward social obligation.
Oh, yeah.
Or even a moment where you were legitimately wronged by someone, but instead of speaking up and defending yourself, you just, swallowed your anger to keep the peace.
Just to avoid the conflict, yeah.
Exactly. And you probably filed that moment away as a one-off, like a bad day,
Right.
a momentary lapse in judgment that doesn't define who you are.
Of course.
But what if that one isolated event wasn't an anomaly at all? What if it was actually a permanent, irreversible blueprint for your entire future?
It is a genuinely unsettling thought to sit with, honestly. Because we are so heavily conditioned by society to believe in this concept of personal growth, in the romantic idea that every single morning we wake up to a blank slate.
Right, the whole today is a new day thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We comfort ourselves by saying that a mistake is just a mistake. We call it a learning opportunity. We dust ourselves off, and we just move forward under the assumption that the past is safely in the past.
We absolutely love the narrative of the clean slate. I mean, I do.
Oh, totally. We all do.
But the source material for today's deep dive completely shatters that comforting illusion.
It really does.
Yeah, so today we are looking at a deeply uncompromising, frankly provocative 2020 essay by Xu Feng. It's titled Judging Future Trends from Habits.
It's a fascinating read.
It really is, because this piece is an almost clinical observation of human behavior. It proposes this radical premise that past actions, physical experiences, and emotional responses are absolute, undeniable predictors of future outcomes.
Yeah, there are no accidents here.
Right. In this author's framework, there is simply no such thing as a one-off.
And it forces you to look at your life through a very, very harsh lens. I mean, the text strips away all of the usual psychological cushioning we give ourselves when we mess up.
Which is a lot of cushion.
Exactly. The author simply doesn't leave room for caveats or exceptions or, special circumstances. It is a fiercely deterministic view that argues essentially what you have done is exactly what you will do.
Wow.
What has happened to you once is exactly what will happen to you again.
And our mission today is to really pull apart those bold assertions about these inescapable loops of human behavior. We're going to examine everything from physical injuries to high-stakes moral choices, all the way down to how you wash your dishes.
Oh, yeah. The dishes part is rough.
It gets so personal, but we want to uncover what this text means for how you evaluate yourself and perhaps more terrifyingly, how you evaluate the people around you.
Yeah.
So to really grasp the mechanics of this theory, let's start with the most tangible, literal examples from the text before we dive into the messy psychology of it all. Let's look at the physical body.
The physical imprint. Yeah, the author starts by making some very grounded claims about the physical reality of our bodies and then uses that as a springboard for the entire philosophy.
Okay.
So the text asserts that if someone is injured at a specific spot on their body, they're significantly more likely to be injured on that exact same spot in the future.
Which, I mean, if we are looking at it purely through the lens of biology, that makes a certain amount of sense.
Right. It's pretty standard.
Yeah, we understand scar tissue. We understand weakened joints. Like if I twist my right ankle playing basketball, the ligaments in that right ankle are compromised. It is now a structural weak point.
Exactly. But the text follows that biological logic further. It claims that experiencing a miscarriage increases the chances of a second and third miscarriage.
Okay.
It also states that those who fight germs poorly, like people who just get sick easily, will become even more easily infected over time.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Yep.
Because while the medical and biological examples have a logical scientific mechanism behind them, the author takes this physical determinism to a place that feels, well, completely wild.
Oh, it goes way beyond biology.
Right. The text states, and this is a direct, literal claim, that those who have been struck by lightning once will likely be stricken again.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, hold on. Injuries and immunity, that's internal biology. But lightning is entirely external. It's an atmospheric anomaly. How does the author justify lumping a weakened immune system in with a random act of weather?
What's fascinating here is that the author deliberately ignores the boundary between internal biology and external coincidence.
Okay.
To us, a lightning strike is the ultimate definition of a freak accident.
Right.
It's just random chance. But the author views vulnerability itself as a self-replicating pattern.
So the mechanism isn't meteorological.
Exactly. It's existential. To the author, it doesn't matter if that vulnerability is an internal weakened immune system or an external vulnerability to a random act of nature. The universe registers the vulnerability all the same.
Man, it's like the author believes that once a boundary is breached, the universe just like memorizes exactly where the door is.
That's a great way to put it.
I was trying to visualize how this actually functions, and the best analogy I could come up with is a crisp piece of paper.
Oh, I like that.
So if you imagine your life as a brand new piece of paper, a freak accident or an injury is a fold. You fold it once and the crease is there.
Right.
And no matter what external force hits that paper later, whether you crumple it up in a ball, toss it in the wind, or try to press it flat under a heavy book, when it bends, it will always naturally fold along that exact same crease line again.
The crease is permanent. That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly, actually. Because to the author, there are no freak accidents.
Wow.
There are only established tracks. The first event creates the groove, and every subsequent event naturally flows down that path of least resistance.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The universe, in this framework, is lazy. It loves a shortcut. And if you have already shown a propensity to attract a certain kind of physical event, even something as extreme as a lightning strike, you have created a metaphysical crease in the paper of your reality.
You know, accepting that our physical cells might hold on to the memory of an injury is one thing.
Right.
But it forces you to wonder about our mental and moral muscle memory. Like, if the universe or our bodies repeat physical patterns so mindlessly, does crossing an ethical line leave that same kind of permanent, repeating scar on your conscience?
And that brings us to where the text's lack of compromise becomes truly glaring.
Yeah.
Because the author takes that exact same creased paper logic and applies it relentlessly to ethical boundaries.
Immoral choices.
Exactly. The text explicitly states that those who lie once will lie again. Those who steal successfully once will do it again.
Just a blanket statement.
Complete blanket statement. It covers a massive spectrum of human failing. We're talking affairs, taking bribes, betrayals. It even goes so far as to say that gambling in a casino for the first time guarantees a repeat performance.
See, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because the tone the author uses is just so absolute.
There was no hesitation.
None. There is no might or maybe. The author says that discarding a promise once means you will discard promises again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a specific, almost clinical phrasing used that really jumped out at me. The text says if you break a precept once, you will break it a second time, a third time, and an nth time, an infinite number of times.
The 10th time. It treats human moral behavior like a geometric progression. Once the formula is initiated, the outcome just calculates itself infinitely.
But surely that ignores the entire human experience of remorse. I mean, what about the concept of a guilty conscience?
That's the logical counter-argument, yeah.
Right. What about someone getting caught stealing, facing the intense humiliation, and being scared straight for the rest of their life? Does the author think humans lack free will entirely? Like, if I tell a lie and feel terrible about it, the text seems to imply my guilt is totally irrelevant to my future actions.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author isn't necessarily arguing that humans lack free will or the capacity for guilt. Instead, the focus is on a very specific psychological threshold.
Okay, what do you mean by threshold?
Think about the massive mental barrier it takes to cross a severe moral line for the very first time. There is anxiety, there is the fear of the unknown, and most importantly, there is the massive weight of your self-identity as a good person pushing back against the action.
Right. I'm thinking about the physical reaction. The first time you tell a massive consequential lie to your boss or your partner, your body reacts.
Oh, intensely.
Your heart is pounding out of your chest, your palms are sweating, your brain is screaming at you to stop.
Yeah, that physiological reaction is your internal alarm system going off.
Yeah.
But the core argument here is that once you survive the lie, you have permanently dismantled that specific alarm.
Whoa, so it's just broken.
It doesn't ring the same way ever again. The first offense removes the shock value of the transgression. You crossed the line, the sky didn't fall, and you survived.
Oh, the boundary's gone.
Exactly. So the author is observing that the second offense is infinitely easier to justify because your internal mental landscape has fundamentally changed. You are no longer someone who might tell a lie. You are now someone who has told a lie.
The identity shift is already locked in.
Yes.
It's the normalization of the abnormal. Like, The first lie is an earth-shattering event, but the second lie is just a management strategy.
And this logic applies to the absolute highest stakes examples in the text. The essay bluntly states, those who kill once are apt to kill again in the future. Yeah. The barrier against taking a human life is the highest, thickest moral wall we have as a species. Once it is breached, the psychological restraint is permanently fractured.
The crease in the paper again.
Exactly. The text argues that the sheer magnitude of the action rewires the brain, making the repetition of that extreme action the new default setting.
It's a chilling perspective because it suggests that our true character isn't formed by our good intentions or our promises to do better, but entirely by our precedents, the precedents we set for ourselves.
It is incredibly rigid.
But it's easy to sit here and look at extreme dramatic examples like killing or taking corporate bribes and say, sure, those are major moral failings. Of course they leave a mark.
Right.
But the author doesn't let us off the hook that easily. This deep dive isn't just about high crimes and misdemeanors. The text actually gets way more uncomfortable and much more personal when we move away from those major events and look at the micro.
Oh, the everyday, boring stuff.
The mundane details of life.
This is where the text stops feeling like a theoretical philosophy essay and starts feeling like a direct, somewhat personal attack on how we manage our daily routines.
Totally.
The determinism the author applies to high-level ethics is applied with the exact same rigidity to your household chores.
Right. And I want you, the listener, to pause for a second and just look around your current environment. Look at your workspace, look at your kitchen counters, or if you're driving right now, look at the passenger seat of your car.
We all have that one messy spot.
Yeah, because the text argues that those who cannot do small things well will do important things poorly. Period. It claims that poor hygiene and sloppiness in your personal space automatically translate to sloppiness in every other seemingly unrelated aspect of your life.
The text leaves no wiggle room here. It explicitly states that those who do not finish what they start, like those who just leave minor tasks incomplete, will inevitably procrastinate on everything.
Right.
And will become forgetful and scatterbrained overall. Carelessness in one single isolated area guarantees carelessness everywhere else.
I have to push back on this because it feels like a bridge too far.
You're not alone in thinking that.
I mean, let's talk about the messy car. Say there is a 3-month-old French fry under my passenger seat.
Right.
And I have a bad habit of leaving my kitchen sink full of dishes. The author is saying I cannot be quick or sharp or detail-oriented in my career as a result. That feels incredibly harsh.
It is hard.
Like, were we really supposed to believe that human beings are completely incapable of compartmentalizing? I know plenty of brilliant, highly effective, wildly successful people whose personal lives and bedrooms look like a bomb went off.
We all know people like that, which makes this one of the most provocative claims in the essay. It fundamentally challenges our deep reliance on the idea of compartmentalization.
Yeah, we use it all the time.
Because we use compartmentalization to protect our egos. We tell ourselves these comforting stories like, I'm only messy at home because I pour 100% of my organizational energy and focus into my startup.
Or, I might procrastinate on folding my laundry, but I am laser focused when it comes to meeting client deadlines.
Exactly. We view those things as completely separate buckets of energy. The home bucket is empty, so the work bucket can be full.
Right.
This raises an important question, though, because the author rejects the concept of buckets entirely.
No buckets allowed.
No buckets. In this philosophy, human character is a single, indivisible thread.
Okay.
You cannot weave a perfectly tight, meticulous pattern at the top of a tapestry, weave a loose, chaotic, frayed pattern at the bottom, and then pretend they aren't part of the exact same fabric.
Oh, wow. That's a great image.
The argument is that your fundamental nature cannot be segmented by geography or context. If you tolerate disorder in your kitchen, you possess a mind that tolerates disorder, period.
So bleeds over.
Yes. A sloppy habit in the micro always, inevitably, bleeds into the macro.
So the messy car isn't just a messy car. It's essentially the broken windows theory applied to the human soul.
That is spot on.
Like, if you let one window stay broken, if you let the laundry pile up, it sends a signal to your brain that disorder is acceptable.
Exactly.
And eventually, that tolerance for disorder won't just stay in your bedroom. It will show up in a boardroom presentation or in a critical relationship or, in a massive financial decision.
That is the exact mechanism the author is pointing to. The text says, those who cannot do small things well will do more important things just as poorly. It envisions character as an unbroken chain. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Man. Which brings us to the most profound and honestly the heaviest layer of this entire deep dive.
Yeah, because it's deeper.
We've talked about physical trauma and how the body remembers. We've talked about moral boundaries in the nth time. And we've talked about the creeping danger of everyday chores. But the text argues that the ultimate, most inescapable permanent prison isn't physical and it isn't behavioral.
It's entirely internal.
Right. It's our emotional states and our fundamental mindsets.
The emotional echoes.
Mm.
This is the section where the text moves beyond observing outward actions and really starts diagnosing our internal world.
And it's not pretty.
No, it lists several emotional patterns that are incredibly difficult to digest. For instance, if you swallow your anger once when you are wronged, the text guarantees you will swallow it again during future heartbreaks.
The emotional fold in the paper.
Exactly. If you lack enthusiasm and passion at the very beginning of a new venture or relationship, you will never suddenly develop that passion later on.
There is also a rule in here about first impressions that is just brutal.
Oh, the uncomfortable rule.
Yes. The text claims that people and things that make you uncomfortable the very first time you encounter them will never set you at ease in the future.
It's a very rigid stance.
And I just have to push back hard on that. Because haven't we all met someone we disliked at first? Like someone who rubbed us the wrong way or made us feel totally awkward, who eventually ended up becoming a great friend?
I mean, it's a classic trope.
Right. We all have that, man, we hated each other when we first met story. Doesn't that completely disprove the author's point?
It is a universally common human experience, so it definitely makes the author's claim seem contradictory at first glance. But if we dig into the underlying philosophy of the essay, it's all about the concept of emotional momentum.
Okay, break that down for me.
The author isn't arguing that people can't change their outward behaviors to become more polite or likable over time. The author is saying that your initial emotional response, that gut-level discomfort, was a genuine, unfiltered signal from your intuition.
Oh. So even if the person eventually becomes your friend or your coworker, that initial friction was a permanent data point that never actually goes away.
That is the argument, yeah. You might learn to politely ignore the discomfort, or you might successfully build a functional friendship on top of it, but that fundamental baseline incompatibility doesn't vanish into thin air.
It's still there underneath.
Think back to the creased paper. The crease was made the moment you met, and the author believes that under enough pressure, or in a moment of crisis, that relationship will naturally fold right back along the line of that initial discomfort.
Wow. That completely reframes how we look at the foundation of our relationships.
It does.
But out of all the emotional loops the author lists, like the permanence of arrogance or the inescapable nature of self-doubt, there is one specific quote that hit me harder than anything else in the entire text.
The one about truth and beauty.
Yes. The author claims that those who find falsity, evil, and ugliness easily will never survive in a world of truth, goodness, and beauty.
That line is undoubtedly the philosophical climax of the essay. It serves as a profound, flashing warning sign about where you choose to direct your daily attention.
We really need to explain the mechanics of that warning. Why is spotting the ugly such a fatal trap?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Right. From a survival standpoint, shouldn't we want to be highly skilled at identifying evil and falsity so we can protect ourselves? Being observant seems like a positive trait.
You would certainly think so from an evolutionary perspective. But the author is highlighting the intense danger of the highly trained eye.
What do you mean?
Think about it like a social media algorithm.
Okay.
If you click on videos of people arguing, if you engage with outrage and negativity, the algorithm notes that behavior.
And it feeds you more of it.
Exactly. It stops showing you cooking tutorials or beautiful landscapes. It feeds you more and more outrage until you genuinely believe the entire world is just people screaming at each other.
That is terrifyingly accurate.
Right. And the author is saying your brain operates on that exact same algorithmic principle.
Right.
If you constantly train your brain to be a detective for evil, if you're always looking for the flaw in someone's argument, always waiting for the hidden lie, always pointing out the ugliness in a situation, that behavior solidifies into a permanent, unremovable lens.
You literally rewire your neurological perception. So you become so incredibly skilled at spotting the bad things that you actually lose the biological capability to process the good things.
That is the tragedy the text outlines.
Yeah.
You build your entire reality out of your habits of perception. If your habit is cynicism, your characteristic becomes cynical.
Wow.
Therefore, even if you were miraculously dropped into a perfect utopian world of absolute truth, absolute goodness, and stunning beauty, you wouldn't be able to survive in it.
Because you wouldn't be able to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your brain would frantically, desperately search the utopia for hidden ugliness,
Hmm.
because that is the only language it knows how to speak. Your mindset traps you in a world entirely of your own making.
It's the ultimate self-fulfilling prophecy. Your habit literally becomes your habitat.
Your habit becomes your habitat. That is a brilliant way to phrase it.
It's just so heavy.
It is. And the author summarizes this entire grim, deterministic view with a very clear, powerful synthesis at the very end of the text.
What does it say?
It reads, "Habits make things become natural. When they become natural to you, they become your characteristics, which will be difficult to change. Therefore, a person's future developmental trends can be judged from their habits."
So what does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive right now?
That is the big question.
It means this text is essentially an invitation to perform a radical, unsparing audit of your own life. The author is challenging you to strip away all of the comforting excuses you make for yourself.
No more buckets.
No more buckets. It's asking you to look at that skipped gym session, or that seemingly minor broken promise to a friend, or that tendency to always swallow your anger when you know deep down you should speak up.
Right.
It's challenging you to stop viewing those moments as isolated bad days and start viewing them as the exact mathematically predictable trajectory of your future. It is an incredibly heavy mirror to look into.
It is heavy, and honestly, it can feel suffocating. The text leaves us with this stark image of humanity trapped in inescapable cycles where our habits harden like concrete into unchangeable characteristics. Yeah, it's pretty bleak.
But examining this philosophy raises a fascinating final question for us to consider. One that builds on the text, but perhaps pushes past its fatalism.
Oh, I love a good loophole in a rigid system. What is it?
Think about the rule we just discussed regarding the social media algorithm of the brain. The idea that spotting the ugly trapped you, preventing you from ever seeing the beautiful.
Right.
The text assumes you are entirely blind to this process happening. But what if you become suddenly acutely aware of the rule itself?
Oh, interesting.
If you realize right in this very moment that your habit of cynicism is actively building the prison you live in, does the very act of recognizing the pattern give you the power to break it?
Wow.
Can the act of observation itself serve as the ultimate loophole in an otherwise inescapable cycle?
Does finally seeing the crease in the paper allow you the chance to smooth it out?
Exactly.
Think back to that tiny white lie or that swallowed anger we talked about at the very beginning of this deep dive. Now that you know the trap, what are you going to do the next time you face it?